I started an agency when I was 20 years old in 2022. 4 months later, I ended up dropping out of university. 4 years later, I went from not knowing how to run an agency to getting 6-figure contracts really, really easily. I eventually did transition to a growth partnership, and funnily enough, I actually ran more than one agency because few iterations as you go. I want to make a video with all my advice. If I was to start again in 2026, what I would have done like differently and with all the knowledge I know now. Now, originally when I started with my first agency, it was a paid ads agency. Back in 2022, you could get away with just running ads, like the creatives didn't have to be that good. Since the TikTok revolution and the way reels and stuff have came out, I've noticed that like content has got stronger as time has gone on. So I'm going to walk you through where I would have started and how I would have scaled like faster and much differently to how I did right now. I went from running an agency to then doing growth partnership where you partner with companies to then eventually being a growth leader at a VC company to now doing growth and marketing education, right? If I was starting my agency again, I would have probably focused on organic. So when I started in 2022, like paid ads was still the hype. This was still before TikTok got big and the TikTok agencies. Back then you could have got away with just like using any creative and just even a decent offer. I really wasn't that good at that time. We basically had a little hack where you could just use warm audiences. As the years have passed, content has become more strong and all agencies have now pivoted. Like before you could just do what you call media buying, but now you had to be a content agency. You had to be able to produce really good videos. And the other thing as well is that it's an easier offer to sell to people. Like when you're trying to sell paid ads, right? Especially to local services and stuff. Even if you're saying you're doing it for free, they still need to like pay a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, SMBs don't really like see it like that. So it's really hard to sell that offer of like, even if you want to do it for free, they still need to pay something, especially with paid ads. They didn't see it as free. They thought I was getting the money, even if it was to Meta. If I had originally gone in with the whole like go in with organic, it would be a really easy offer. All I would have to do is just, because I could do it for free, I'd have to learn how to edit, learn how to obviously, you know, create videos. But you can literally go on TikTok and watch 100 videos and you'll figure it out. And then, you know, if you make enough volume, it's bound to work. If I start again, I would have made an organic agency. Now I know I could have scaled that quite easily to 10K a month. Scaling 10K a month is quite easy. It's literally a volume game. You want to get 1 or 2 clients for free, just do the work, get the results. As you try to get more clients, you've now got testimonials, right? Getting your first client will probably be the hardest, and it's because you probably don't have sales skills. But literally, like if you say, look, I want to do like 20 videos for you for free, and this should get you at least 10 customers, it's a really easy offer to sell. Like, why would someone say no to that? Any specific niches? I would probably do like aesthetics, dentists, something in that range. I wouldn't go for food. The AOV is just too low. So I'd look for something in that range, right? And I know that those type of businesses can pay me. Even if I ask $1,000 a month, they'll be able to pay it, right? And remember, when you're starting out, it's not about necessarily earning, it's about learning, right? Now, once I would have got my foot in the door and I would have figured out, okay, I can do organic, and I could probably handle about 2 to 3 clients on my own, possibly maybe even a bit more, I would then introduce paid and I would then learn paid, right? That's truly starting from scratch. Like you can use your iPhone and you can do an agency really, really easily. You get an iPhone, you can edit very, very easily and post for them, right? Like that's literally starting from zero, okay? So yeah, so to summarize, I would have gone local, I would have done an organic agency first, and then I would eventually get into paid ads once I'd understand it more. Now, paid ads, it's more about you're winning organic will work on paid, but it's also having a very extreme offer. And you realize that if you have a really strong offer, it works on all platforms, right? If I, for example, a next day delivery, if I, for example, have a free anything or free asset or something where it's like a really high value item and I've discounted it, maybe it's my first session is free, that's always going to work on paid. And then eventually, as you understand more, you can tailor it more. That you will hit a ceiling at around maybe 5 or 10K a month because you probably have a few different clients. Now, if you want to scale realistically, you're probably going to have to go 2 ways, right? You either go the growth partnership way or the niche way. So I'll walk you through both. So if you want to get to like 30K, 50K, 100K a month, there's only 2 options you can do, okay? You can either go down the niche agency route where you productize your backend. Because you would have learned organic and paid, you have a bit of a system of you know what works. You're going to need at least a year working in a general agency to know the key stuff. Yeah, you're going to productize the backend. So you're going to probably know exactly what happens at stage 1, how to get customers. Then you probably want to learn how to retain them. What are the upsell, downsells? You know the good bits and the bad bits, right? Then what you can do is productize it, meaning you can build out all these SOPs. Now with AI, you can probably do a lot of the backend stuff really easy. So yeah, then what I would do is like, after you productize everything, it's literally just finding more of those types of people. The good thing is like, you know that system works and because you've proven it, you got testimonials, and they're more likely to close because they've seen it. It's also easy to put on paid ads, right? If you say, are you a dentist doing 10K a month and do you want to go to 50K a month? Here's a free X, or you want to do X, do you know what I mean? Or full money back guarantee, because you're so certain, like you can have the offer because you know it works. Problem is that you're probably never going to work with the number one guy. And also it's like, to make more money, it's about changing your avatar. So you might start in local service, realize that you'll get like $800 a month retainer, maybe $2,000, and then realize I actually can't charge more because they're not making enough. Remember, a local service business is limited to the founder and limited to the the area, right? Compared to something like e-commerce or digital products or online consulting. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's the problem, right? You have to kind of graduate avatar. So you might have an agency that starts you might get to 20, 30K a month in an aesthetics agency, and then you might pivot to e-commerce where they'll pay you a bit more and the deal structure is slightly different. Yeah, and again, you'll never really work with the number one guy because the number one guy doesn't want to use what everyone else is using. He wants to be better. And ideally, if you're number one, you don't want everyone to know your inner talents, right? Like Coca-Cola doesn't share its recipe with everyone. Do you get what I mean? So, but it does work. And in that end, it's easy to get customers, a volume of customers as well. Now, the other method is what I call growth partnership. And this is where I went down. So with my agency, the first time I'd worked with a bunch of different clients. I'd worked in, e-commerce, I'd worked in drop shipping, I had worked in aesthetics, I worked with wholesalers, I went with vintage, I went with retail stores. I even worked with a live stream marketplace. You know what I mean? So I'd worked with so many different types that I started to see kind of correlations. And what I preferred was working with the number one guy. And what you find is the number one person is they're more ambitious and you want to work with them. And they think ahead as well. So it obviously depends on the type of entrepreneur you are. But for me, I like solving bigger problems. So and it's easier when the person who's running the product, who's running the service is aligned with you to want to solve those big problems as well, right? So I went down that route. Now you can't do that many clients, but your deal structure is 10 times better. So it's like with a lot of my deals, the lowest retainer I had was £3,000 was like about $4,000, $3,800. Plus I had 5% commission or 10% commission. Some was on £7,000 or whatever that is in dollars. I had a 20K or 50K bonus, depending on set targets, basically. So in that model, it's less clients, but you're working with the top clients, right? And in theory, it's like, would you rather work with 10 100K businesses or 1 million business? Do you know what I mean? It's just down to preference. And those people tend to attract better talent as well. Now, the problem with this is that they're very hard to find because you're trying to look for someone who's just before they've blown up kind of thing. So it's very hard, very difficult. It's not your product, right? It's on the mercy of them. If they make a bad call, it really affects you. But if you can find that, you will make a lot of money. You will make a lot more cash flow doing that model and a lot less stress as well than opposed to doing the LTV as well. Like if you didn't know, this was the biggest thing for me that I'd learned. Marketing agencies, their average LTV is 3 to 4 months. And I didn't know that when I started. I saw all the propaganda online and I was like, oh, this is cool. But when I got into it, I was like, damn, this is, if you don't know what you're doing, they're not going to stay. And sometimes outside of you, right? Sometimes it's more to do with the client genuinely being bad or you're overcharging. And you got to understand that some clients can't afford certain prices. So yes, that's what I learned. Now, the agencies that keep clients for a long time, they've productized multiple parts. So it's first they'll have acquisition, then they may have sales, then they may have retention. They've productized each piece, right? So they understand that. And again, even then, niche agencies, I would say maybe very few of them have clients that stay with them for 3 or 4 years. Growth partnership is the opposite because you're so aligned with the person, they will keep you for multiple years. I've had growth partnerships 3 or 4 years now. And the other thing is that with an agency, first of all, it's hard to get the right talent. And second of all, they want you to work more in their business, but you want more clients. So it's kind of a weird kind of game, right? A lot of agencies overwork the staff. The staff are not paying attention to every business. It's near enough impossible. And for someone like me, I like to be really focused, so I can focus on maybe 2 or 3 things at a time. That is really it. To go back, I would learn the skills in the first year. I would then try and look for people who have really high growth potentials. Now, what you will ultimately find is that I don't think many people stay as agencies unless you genuinely like the business model. The thing is with an agency, right? You got to think you've now learned the skill how to market. The skill you're kind of lacking at is what product. And what you will find is that as you become a better marketer overall, you just want to work with the best products. So that's where growth partnership comes in. What's probably going to happen is you might end up just working with 1 business, maybe 2, and be really happy on that. And that's what you'll want to do. Or you may just make your own company. It'll be one of the 2 basically. But you'll get to a point where it's you got such good skill, you just need to be great at picking the right opportunities. So that's what ends up happening. Usually at the start, you're just trying to get the reps in, but after when you're really good, it's all about opportunity picking, right? Now, growth partnership really does give that option. And I eventually became a growth lead at a company for a while. So like I led the growth team, and I saw some benefits and, you know, things of that as well. If you want me to make a video, just comment down below. If I was to start again from 4 years ago, honestly, I would have done general agency, really understood, and probably done growth partnership straight away. I think the hardest thing about growth partnership as well is that I'm just thinking that, now keep in mind, both businesses are really great cash flow. Agencies and, you know, these growth partnerships are really great for cash flow. That's the type of business you're in. I wouldn't probably advise you to try and aim to sell this. It's not worth it. It's not worth the stress, like, and it's the team members and everything. There was an opportunity where I think it was a great time, but the arbitrage now is very different. So I reckon learn the skills and then you'll probably end up doing your own product. But yeah, that's my take. I've ran 2 to 3 agencies now by remaking them a few times. I've tried the niche agency. I've tried growth partnership. If you've got any questions, just leave it down below. I'll tell you the constraints and the great bits and what was propaganda.